Alrighty, welcome back. It's the Jeremy Mills podcast, and today we have a very special guest. It's infamous Kayce. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you having me to the crib here. It's very nice. Got the lounge room going, made for a podcast. So for the people who don't know you, you're somebody who I kind of knew of from Instagram, posting shoes, posting just all sorts of stuff. And one thing I think would be really cool to start with is your experience at the WNBA All-Star Game back in July. There's a lot to unravel from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just how'd you get involved with that at first?
So I actually started off as a ball kid when I was in 9th grade, and I worked for the Seattle Storm, and I did that until I graduated from college. I would come back in the summers like in college, and I would work as a ball girl. And then after I graduated, the position opened up, which was the video coordinator, equipment manager. It was basically like 2 roles in one. Mm-hmm. And that was like my boss. Well, that position was like the boss of the ball kids. And so the position opened up. I interviewed for it. I got it. And then I worked for the Seattle Storm in that position for like 4 years. And then that's kind of how I like really got my foot in the door with the WNBA. It's kind of funny because at the time, social media wasn't really big. And I don't want to say they didn't like appreciate my social media, but it definitely kind of was like conflicting because it was like I had a presence on social media and, you know, people were still new to the whole social media thing. Right. And so I don't want to say it was like a conflict of interest at all, but it was definitely kind of like, oh, you know, like just be careful with your social media, you know, knowing that you represent, you know, a bigger organization, you know, working for them. And so I ended up leaving because it was a seasonal position and I turned 25 and my dad was like, I'm kicking you off insurance, or you're getting kicked off insurance. So I was like, I need a full-time job. And so I left the WNBA. So that's how I got my foot in the door. And then it's just kind of funny how things come full circle because a couple of years later, the WNBA and the NBA are under like the same umbrella. And so they reached out like right before Golden State came out here and played at the Key Arena. And they were like, hey, like, we want to get you involved. Like, we know you're into sports and, you know, you worked with the WNBA and, you know, you're into sneakers. And that's kind of how I pretty much got, like, back in with the WNBA. And then so I hosted their WNBA Kicks 2019 bracket, or 2018 bracket, excuse me. And then I just started to get more opportunities with them. Wow. And so that's kind of how it unraveled. Yeah.
You never know what one thing will lead to.
Yeah, no, like I said, and it's kind of crazy because like at one time it was like my social media was kind of like looked down upon, and now it's like being used as like a platform, which is so dope to me.
It's like the internet in a way. It's like video games.
Right.
It's like this weird art that people are doing, but all of a sudden it's really important in today's age. What social media were you starting with way back in the day?
MySpace.
I remember MySpace. Yeah. That was you could do so many different things, you know, the music on the page.
Yeah. It's so funny because me and all my
stuff.
friends are like, we make jokes like if MySpace was like still around now, like we would be like the most dope coders. Like the fact that like I can't even fathom like making a like site nowadays, and the fact that we like knew how to code everything, change colors, like I'm like it's crazy.
It's amazing what random passion will allow you to learn.
Oh yeah, and then there was like other sites like Asian Avenue and things like that, and it's kind of funny. Yeah, so it's those. That was like there was like all these websites that were like specific to like your ethnicity, which is funny. But yeah, it was just like MySpace, and everyone would like code on there, and like Asians are really good at that kind of thing. And so they would have like these like crazy pages that had like a bunch of detail, and it was like I was never that good, but I'm like, imagine if we were like still coding till this day, like what we could like really be doing.
Yeah, maybe some of those people are.
I bet.
You never know. When did your interest in social media, natural passion, whatever you want to say, turn into something you're like, all right, I might be able to make a career out of this?
It wasn't until this year I actually quit my full-time job. I was at Nordstrom in corporate for 4 years in marketing. I wasn't really looking at social media as like an income. But once I started to get opportunities, like more opportunities, and they were coming in pretty frequently.
And that's because you're becoming successful as far as
right.
people following you.
Right. And then like, you know, once you kind of work with one brand, it kind of opens the doors for so many other things. So it's like, okay, she like promotes, she does hosting, she does other things, like let's use her for, and like it's like once I worked with Foot Locker, it was like, okay, now I'm working with Champs, and you know what I mean, like it's everything kind of in the same lane. But like I said, I wasn't really looking at it as like an income or a job. And one of my friends was like, you need to capitalize on this, because I was getting free stuff and I was posting it for free. And my friend was like, you can't do that anymore. And I was like, why not? And he was like, I mean, he was like, honestly, you have to look at yourself as like a marketing platform. He was like, can you go to Google? Can you go to Facebook and ask them to post an ad for free? And I was like, no. And he was like, exactly. He was like, you have a market that people don't have access to and they want to utilize. That's why they're reaching out to you. And he was like, so you need to start charging. And so it started off as like a small amount, and then it was like, talking to other influencers and people that were doing the same thing that I was doing. They were like, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are pretty open about like what they charge and things like that for hostings and posting and things like that. And so it kind of like gave me a grasp on like what I should be charging. And then from there it kind of unraveled, and it was like, okay, I think I could make a living off of this, and it's like, I was in my head, I was like, I'm making pretty good money off of it and I'm just doing it in my spare time. Imagine if I was like really pushing content that I could probably like live off of it. And so that's, kind of how it just happened.
And as far as building the following, was that not an overnight thing? Did you get a big boost of followers and that built off of that?
I've always had like a thing for social media, like even like back to MySpace days, like I had like a ton of friends on there, and I mean, I have a background in marketing, and like I said, I've always had a thing for social media, like in growing followers like organically, and it kind of just, I'm good at like understanding my audience, and I think that's really important for like growing your following. And that's kind of where it took off. And it was like I started being featured on things like Complex and Kicks on Fire and things that were like, blogs that were in the sneaker and sports world and things like that. And it kind of just took off from there. And I had Instagram when it kind of like was like it was still like only iPhone users could have it. And I was like posting sneakers and things like that. And the sneaker world wasn't really as established as it is now. And I don't want to say like I was one of the first like girls, but I feel like I was like, there's not that many girls in the sneaker community, or there wasn't like there is now. And so, I was posting a bunch of like retro OG, sneakers, and a lot of guys, that's like kind of where I don't know, I guess I started getting noticed, was like me posting all my old sneakers and things like that. And then, like I said, being featured on a bunch of stuff. And then it just was basically like from there, it just kept growing.
You say marketing and social media, those go hand in hand today. And I think most people get that. Is there something you could help somebody listening, just one basic tip for marketing and social media that you think is often done wrong or missed?
I think it's just really staying authentic and understanding your following, and really grasping like your niche on social media. So for me, like my thing is like fashion, sports, sneakers. Like I would love to be like Kylie Jenner, where I could probably post like my thumb and get 1 million likes, but unfortunately that's not why people follow me. So it's like understanding what my followers want to see. And because I've made like a business of my social media, like, yeah, there's people on social media that post whatever they want, just their life, and that's cool and I love it. You know what I mean? Like that's their page. For me, because I've pretty much become a business, I don't say I have to post, but like that's what I like to post, and that's what people follow me is for sneakers, fashion, and sports. And so it's understanding your following. Why do they follow you? What do they want to see? It's like I've definitely learned over, the years, it's like what they like. And it's, clear photos, good quality, a good content, a good outfit. You know what I mean? Like there's just things that like I know why my followers follow me. And so it's just, like I said, really understanding your audience if you're a business, and then, catering to that. And I don't mean like that in a way of like you have to do what your followers want, but once you make yourself a business on social media, it's like, I follow Hypebeast because of fashion. I don't follow them for food. You know what I mean? So it's like really understanding why people follow you and then delivering to that. If you're a business.
If you're a business, then that's the perfect point for that.
Right.
As far as sneakers go, though, I know your dad was the PE teacher. Both your parents played basketball, so it was just a big part of your life growing up.
Yeah.
What do you think the first pair of shoes were that inspired you to like, oh, this isn't just something where you wear on your feet. This is.
Yeah. I think they were probably the Aqua 8s. I have a picture with Kendall Gill way back in the day, and those are like the one pair of shoes that like I really remember, like, and it was like even growing up it was like I wanted another pair of them in my size because obviously I couldn't fit them anymore. But that's kind of what took off. Like, people ask me like what started my sneaker collection, and it was really my dad. Like, my dad instilled it in me when I like basically was like born. Like, he wanted a little boy. I wasn't the boy, but I basically was the little boy. Made me play all sports, which I mean I thank him for, obviously, because I love sports, but he was basically putting me in the dopest shoes since I was like little. And from there, kind of just my love for like, you know, sports and sneakers kind of go hand in hand. So that's kind of where it started. Just my dad playing sports, being around sports, my dad being a PE teacher and coaching, just always around sports. That's kind of where like sparked my love for like sneakers. So like while everyone was like collecting Barbies and things like that, it was like I wanted sneakers. So
you're rocking the Yeezys today.
Yeah.
Rocking the Yeezys today. What do you look for in a sneaker now? Something, you know, you may have never seen before.
What I look for in a sneaker now is probably the colorway and silhouette. I try not to buy like anything that's like super hyped, just because I feel like a lot of stuff is overrated nowadays. And it's like, I don't consider myself a hype beast at all. I used to not even consider myself a sneakerhead. Like, I really hated that term just because I felt like it was like, I like sneakers because it's part of my lifestyle. Like, I don't like sneakers because like it's the cool thing to do, you know? And so for me, it's like, you know, what stands out? What's like, you know, what can I pair some dope outfits with that nobody else is going to do? So I'm really like, now I'm like looking for like silhouette, and it's like, obviously I'm getting older, so it's like comfort, you know what I mean? But colorway is definitely important to me.
Now you live in Seattle.
Yeah.
I live in Seattle. Rain is inevitable here. What about shoes that are good in the rain? Have you ventured into any of that? Are you boots? Are you?
No, I mean, I'm really like OCD about my sneakers and keeping them clean. But I mean, living in Seattle, it's kind of like, I was like one of those people who like walked really crazy in my Air Forces because I didn't want to crease them. But now I feel like it's kind of like, you know, creases and a little bit of dirt gives your shoe a little bit of character. So, I mean, honestly, there's some shoes that I wear in the rain that I'm like, you should not be wearing these in the rain, but I just do it because I'm like, it's a part of my outfit. It's not like I'm walking 3 miles in the rain, you know, I might be walking to my car, but I still will wear pretty much any sneaker in the rain. Yeah, not really ventured off into like boots and things like that. I mean, obviously I love a good pair of Uggs, but you know, the rain doesn't stop me.
No, it can't. Just seeing back to the NBA or WNBA All-Star game, seeing those players up close, a collection of the greatest women's players in the game today. What surprised you? I know you know a lot of those people and you've been around the game a lot, but what surprised you at that particular event?
You know, I've just growing up working with the WNBA, just how much it's grown and expanded. I wouldn't say there was anything like player-wise, but it was just, I just really appreciate where the WNBA is going. And like I said, for someone that grew up being a ball kid and seeing where it started to where it is now, and you know, all the things that they're doing to get recognition, and just seeing all the supporters there was really just, you know, was dope. Being there, obviously, you know, All-Star game, you're around the, you know, the best of the best. But just like I said, seeing like the appreciation for basketball and women in sports was really probably the dopest thing to me. And, you know, a lot of guys came out, a lot of NBA players came out to watch and show their support, which was really cool. But again, like I said, just really seeing how far the WNBA has come and where they are now and, you know, where they're going is just really exciting.
I got my first real big introduction into women's the women's game with the Elite is Earned crew, Chris Hansen and those guys down in California. I got to meet Kelly Sopak, all these great women basketball figures. And what I learned from that experience was just that, there's all this, from what I see on the internet, this controversy around the women's game, people bickering back and forth. And when you go in real life, it's not that at all. They're doing their own thing.
That's the thing. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, not once have I ever, like, I hear people talk crap about the WNBA and women's sports all the time, right? But I've never heard anybody like actually like that has gone to a game and been like, okay, that was terrible. You know what I mean? It's like just getting them there is the hard part. But once they go there, like, wow, that was like actually like a good time. Like it was actually like fun to watch. It was actually like a cool atmosphere. And so, like I said, my thing is like, I'm like pushing people to not be like, okay, you need to go watch women's basketball or get into women's sports, but I'm like, yo, just try it, go, and then if you don't like it, then cool. But it's like so many people are judging women's sports and especially women's basketball have not even been to a game, so
they're probably not going to much things. It seems a lot online.
Yeah, it's like Twitter fingers.
Yeah, you never hear it in person, really.
Right.
And I've never had a conversation with a person that's like that. So
right.
It was just cool to see the skill level, like you're talking about, is amazing, and then just the generations that go through seem to just are giving back now, and that's building the next generation, people like you to promoting the game. So
yeah,
really cool.
I mean, I just feel like basketball was such a big part of my life, playing college and things like that, and everything I do, I pretty much relate back to basketball and what I've learned just on the court and how I can apply that off the court. And women, like, basketball has just taken me so many places, got me an education, so I mean, I just want to give back in any way that I can. Mm-hmm. The game gave so much to me, so it's like, how can I, give back?
Mm-hmm. It's a great common theme in the Seattle basketball community, is that. So it's great to see it's not lost on you either. The WNBA All-Star Game also brought a pretty cool picture I saw on your Instagram of Kobe.
Yeah.
Tell me that whole experience, just from when you knew you were going to do the interview to doing it.
We had talked about it, that I was going to be interviewing some celebs or special guests that were going to be at the game. Didn't know who. It's crazy because people are probably going to hate me for this, but I'm not really a Kobe fan. I love his game. I appreciate his game. I respect him as like a basketball god, GOAT. Like, I appreciate his game. I've just never been a Kobe fan. So it was funny because it was like, literally, he had showed up to the game. He was sitting courtside, like, it was before the game, and they're like, yo, like, Kobe's here. Let's get a quick interview. Like, let's get 2 questions and leave him alone. Like, they didn't want to bother him, obviously. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, and I wasn't really like, in the picture, some people were like, you look so starstruck, but it wasn't that. I was like, it was like my first interview of the day, and I was like, I had literally got thrown into it, and it was like, all right, you're going to go in, you're going to ask these 2 questions, and we're going to get in and get out. And so it was like, it was so surreal, because it's like, obviously, as like a fan of basketball, someone who played basketball, it's like, Kobe, you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. And like, the fact that I can say, like, I interviewed Kobe, even if it was only 2 questions, it was really cool. But like I said, I got thrown into it. It was like, yo, he's here, let's do it, go now.
In the moment, thinks of something. Yeah.
And it was like, it happened so fast, and everyone was like, I got hit up so much after that, like, yo, that was so cool, like, like, you're so lucky. Like, I do think that, I was very lucky to have the opportunity, and blessed to have the opportunity. But I mean, it was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Were you proud of the questions that you came up with?
I mean, they were very, very, very basic questions. I mean, I think it was something like, which it's been a really long time, but I am going to drop a recap of the WNBA All-Star Game. It's just been we had so much footage, trying to get it down into like a reasonable time of like a YouTube video is what we're just struggling with. But yeah, I think I literally asked him, I was like, well, because I was there hosting the WNBA Kick segment, everything I did was like sneaker wise. And so we had interviewed all the girls about like what they were wearing, why they chose the shoes that they were going to be wearing in the game. And so that was kind of the same thing I asked Kobe. Was like, obviously he wasn't playing, but I was like, I think my 2 questions were, what do you have on your feet today? He had the black tuxedos on, obviously his own shoe. And then I asked him who he was excited to see play in the game. And I don't remember everybody that he said, but I do remember that he mentioned Jewel Lloyd. Obviously, she's part of like the Mamba family. So yeah, those are my two questions, and it was like in and out, let him go.
Boom.
Yeah.
Then you got to interview a real celebrity, Jamal Crawford. I don't know if you interviewed him, but you got to talk to him.
Yeah, I've known Jamal for a while. Just obviously being from Seattle in the basketball community. But yeah, him, Chris Paul, Nate was there. Nate was actually not at the game. He went to the skills challenge and stuff like that the day before. But there was a bunch of celebrities there, which was cool.
Kind of taking it way, way back. You said your dad was a PE teacher, obviously. Your parents both played basketball. What about the game got you so interested? Was it the players? Was it that, the atmosphere at games? Was it?
For me, it was like my dad was like my best friend. And so that was like what connected us with sports. Like I played baseball, all boys. Like I was the only girl. Soccer, basketball. Both my parents played basketball. My mom played in high school. My dad played in high school. And then he played football in college. But it was kind of just like a thing that I felt like brought me and my dad together. And it was like I loved it. I don't know, from like I picked up a ball when I was in first grade. Well, that was like the first time I actually like played like was like on a team and things like that. Like I had obviously picked up a ball before that, but I feel like it was just like, it was I'm a team sport. Like I was around my friends, I was having a good time. Like, I was around my dad, and I just loved being like in the gym. I don't know what it was. It was just, like I said, I think it was like something that I felt like brought me and my dad together. It was like, I was always in the gym because he was the PE teacher and he was a coach at my school. So I went to Summit, which was a K-12. And so I was like always like watching like the middle schoolers play and the high schoolers play. And I was just in the gym. Like we were literally in the gym every single day. So it was like, I really didn't know anything else. But yeah, I think it was, like I said, like the connection between me and my dad, that we had that. And then really just being around the game and watching, girls in high school play that I was like in awe of. And I was like, I want to be that. I want to play just like her. Like there was a girl that, because I went to a K-12, there was a girl who was like, obviously older than me. And when I was in middle school, she was in high school, but I like literally called her my idol. Like she was so good. And I just watched her game, and it was like, damn, like she's so good. I want to be just like her. Like, and it was just like seeing women play sports, and they were good at it. And just like the rush, I don't know, just everything about the game was just so cool to me.
And then having success, you played at a collegiate level.
Yeah.
What was falling in love with the game, one, and then later having success with it too? Did that feed into the love? Did
1000%. Like my middle school team, we were not good. Like there was one game where we won 43-41 and I had 43 points. Like so my team wasn't like a good team, but like all my AU teams, I played on the best of the best. Like I played for a team called Triple Threat, and we won 101 games and lost maybe like 2. We placed 9th at nationals. And so I always played on really, really, really good teams, which obviously when you're winning, it makes it that much more fun. So yeah, winning, obviously like, being good or whatever. And then, getting the opportunity to play at the collegiate level and, getting a free education. Like that was like my way of like giving back to my mom and dad. It was like, you ain't got to worry about paying for college, nothing. Like all the money that you spent, paying for me to go on AU trips and things like that. Like, that was like,
that's cool.
The goal.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you played in Hawaii. What was that experience like? It's a beautiful place. Obviously, was it ever hard to stay concentrated or?
So it's crazy because I wasn't expecting to go to Hawaii. My high school coach was pretty new to like getting girls into college. And so a lot of my looks were from AU, and letters would get sent to my high school. But the recruiting process was like a little weird there, because it was like I wasn't getting those letters. And, obviously when you're not filling out those questionnaires and things like that, colleges think you're not interested. And there's 100,000 other girls that would love the opportunity. So in their, had I wasn't interested. And so I feel like I missed out on some opportunities there. And so my commit to Hawaii was very late. I did not go visit, but I was like, okay, it's Hawaii. Like, how bad could it be? My school's on Big Island. I did not go visit, like I said. First day I got there, there was a thunderstorm and like a earthquake, and my mom was like, this is where we're leaving her. Like, it was scary. Like, and Hilo is very rainy, like humid. It's definitely not like what you think of Hawaii. Like, it's not, there's no sand beaches, nothing like that. So it was definitely like, okay, this is not what I seen on the postcards. You know what I mean? And so I had a couple issues with my college coach. I started like the first 3 games, and there were some issues with people feeling like I was a freshman coming in and taking like a senior spot. And that was like my first time ever coming off of the bench on any team. And like I said, I played on elite level teams. I played on teams where every single girl went D1. You know what I mean? I was like starting on those teams. So it was like just to fathom that, like, I felt like I was skill wise like a better player than these girls that were getting time over me, but they were only getting time just because they were seniors. Like, it was just wild to me. So I tried to leave my first year, and my coach wouldn't release me. And then I was like, my second year came around, and it was like, damn, I should have redshirted, but I've already played a couple games, so I couldn't redshirt. And then by my senior year, we got a new coach, and I wish I would have had him my entire time. But I mean, like I said, I was in Hawaii. I got a free education. I played basketball. We traveled all the time, so it was like I wasn't really there. Definitely, island fever is a real thing. Like, feeling like you're trapped, like, because obviously you can't leave unless you're flying somewhere, and everywhere is 5+ hours. So it was crazy, like I said. But I mean, it was a great experience. Got an education, got a degree, so I really can't complain. Got to play basketball.
That sounds still amazing, but yeah, different than what you thought. Mm-hmm. We talked about the love of the game, and then it's evolved into this. It's almost a business when you're in college at that point. Were you burnt out? Did you want to just?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, like I said, I had played basketball nonstop since I was in first grade. I was playing up like 3 grades by the time I got into 3rd grade. And my senior year came, and then, like I said, I got that job right after with the WNBA. I got it right after I graduated. And it was like, if I could go back, I would definitely try to have played overseas. But I was so burnt out. It was like, man, all I knew was like, I never had weekends. There was so many like opportunities I missed in high school, like extracurricular, because I was playing basketball. And back then I didn't appreciate it. Obviously, I was like kind of resentful towards my family, because it was like every weekend I was like playing in tournaments, multiple tournaments. Like, at one point I was playing on 3 AAU teams at one time, and it was like, I loved it, so I wasn't mad, but it was like, damn, I kind of want like a regular lifestyle. You know, I want all my friends are kicking it and whatever, and my mom would be like, okay, like, but what's that gonna do for you? You know what I mean? And so I didn't appreciate it then, but I definitely do now. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't change anything. The only thing, like I said, I would change is that I would have went even harder than I did, and that I wouldn't have stopped after college. And it was like I said, like, I got into kind of like the rhythm of just like having a job, and, you know, I was like, oh wow, I get to do whatever I want on weekends. Like, I'm not playing basketball, like, or I'm not, you know, my days are not dedicated to 2-a-days and practice. And so, like, yeah, I was burnt out, but like I said, if I could go back, I would definitely do things differently, like, after. But yeah, being burnt out was definitely a real thing.
Yeah, it's a thing I hear a lot of with people who are good, because if you're good, you're going to spend a lot of time on it, and you probably feel the pressure of wanting to maximize your talent, and your parents feel that pressure, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
For people who are in that same situation now, whether it be a parent or a student athlete, what advice would you give them?
Like I said, because I didn't understand it back then, and so, like I said, I was resentful towards my family. If I could go back, I would dedicate even more time. But I would say, you know, for parents, it's hard, because it's like, I want to say, like, don't let up, but at the same time, like, you don't want your kid to resent you. I mean, find a balance, but seeing things from a different perspective now, it's like, I appreciate that my parents made me play on all those teams, and I wasn't doing other things where I could have been getting in trouble and things like that. And so it's like a thin line of like, I understand where parents are coming from, you know, being so hard on them, but it's like also at the same time, you know, I think kids should definitely have a balance. But yeah, I mean, if the goal is to play at the collegiate level and play further than that, I mean, I would literally say dedicate your time to that. I mean, kicking it and going to parties really wouldn't have done nothing for me. You know what I mean? And although I was like kicking and screaming, like, why can't I go to these parties? Why can't I do these things my friends are doing? I mean, yeah, I'd have memories, but what would that have really done for me? And I'm not saying like don't go out, you know, to these kids or don't enjoy, you know, other things besides sports. Definitely have a balance, but it's like, I mean, what was I really missing out on, you know?
Like
and I didn't understand that then.
Right.
And so for I guess my advice to kids is like, you know, your parents, I mean, they know some, you know what I mean? Like, even though you might think they don't, like, they've experienced way more than, you know, you have, and they know, you know, so it's like understand and, you know, respect and listen to where they're coming from. But at the same time, parents, you know what I mean? Like, let your kids have like a little bit of a balance, because you don't want to be burnt out like I was. And, you know, even though I say like I would go back and I would dedicate even more time, you know, there was parts of me that were like, wow, like, let me enjoy this time off because I never had it before. You know what I mean? And that's when I like got comfortable in like not playing basketball. And then it was like, by the time I wanted to get back, it was too late. So, yeah.
What would you say you learned most in sports that has helped you outside of sports?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because like everything I do, like I said, I kind of relate back to sports. Like in the workplace, it's like, I feel like playing team sports, like I work very well in teams. Like when I was working at Nordstrom, obviously marketing is a huge team. It's like being able to work with different personalities. Like if you can work with different personalities on the court, different styles of play. You know, I was playing with, like I said, 3 teams at one time. So I was playing with all different girls, 30, 40, 50 girls, you know, just playing on different teams. So it's like understanding people's personalities and how to deal with them and play with them. You know, it's like same thing off the court. It's like you're in a workspace with people. It's like, how do you know, work with these people, deal with their personalities in a professional space? You know what I mean? And not a lot of people, you know, I feel like working in teams and teamwork is like such a like undervalued skill, because there's not a lot of people who can work in groups and things like that. And so teamwork being one, I feel like, you know, just being able to adapt in different situations on the court. I apply that off the court. It's like, you know, being able to be versatile and things like that. Literally anything I could have done in basketball, I somehow apply it to like everyday life. You know what I mean? Which is crazy to me, because some people will be like my old boss, she played basketball too, and everything she would do, she would relate back to basketball. And it was like, oh my God, there's somebody that's just like me. You know what I mean? Like, you know, some people at work would be like, what? Because they never played basketball. So it's like, they don't understand any of these like examples or, you know, like metaphors or anything like that. But I'm like, talk to me in basketball terms at work and I completely get it. So.
That's right. You hear sometimes people, sports ball, what? Especially in Seattle, sometimes people do not like that being brought up, but that's why I mentioned it, because for somebody like me, somebody like you, different backgrounds, the sports is a relation, and that's
1000%
brings people together. Like
absolutely.
Easy. Working as would you say more? Was it a brand ambassador? Is that what you label what you do every day? Independent contractor, influencer. There's a lot of names.
I feel like I go under like a bunch of different umbrellas. Brand ambassador being one, influencer. Now I kind of like am a freelance host, so I freelance with the WNBA. I've hosted parties and things like that. So I kind of like, I don't like to limit myself, but I also don't want to like fall under every umbrella. So I feel like the 3, like I said, is like brand ambassador, influencer, and host. That's kind of like where I think I fall.
And obviously you work hard. You seem like you're really good at what you do. You're successful. But just for you, when you're getting ready to do an event or whatever it may be, what do you actually have fun with? What do you enjoy the most?
I really enjoy being around basketball, honestly. It's such a blessing, like I said, that everything's come full circle and I'm back working with the WNBA, but now like under my own terms. So like under infamous Kayce, and it's me, you know what I mean? I feel like my brand is pretty established. And so being able to be myself and do what I love and be around basketball, like it's so much fun to me, you know what I mean? Or anything that's like related to sneakers or anything like that is like where I'm having the most fun. But definitely that WNBA stuff really excites me because it's like I was a female athlete and it's like I stand behind all the female athletes, and I'm really just, I want women's sports to win. And I feel like they're so undervalued and so underappreciated that it's like I have a platform now. I'm able to share that. I'm able to utilize it. I'm able to, you know, shed light on women's sports, and being that's my background. It's so dope.
Yeah. And what's next for you? You've accomplished all this already. You sound like you want to help push the game forward, and you're doing that.
Yeah.
But what else? Is there things that you're shooting for?
I mean, the goal is to eventually have my own clothing line. Right now I'm working on a collab line with somebody pretty dope. Can't drop too much information, but
look for it.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. So I mean, I really just want to have like my own brand and my own line, whether it's like I really don't want to be the face of it, but I just want to have something that's like my own. And I just want to continue to do stuff like in the sports world and just continue to, you know, shed light on women's sports, specifically basketball, but all sports really.
Something special about it.
Yeah.
And the community. And the community is something I always end on here. The Seattle basketball community. I've interviewed coaches, players, scouts, refs, name them, kids.
Yeah.
If you had to say one thing to the Seattle basketball community, I give you the floor.
Thank you. Honestly, thank you. I feel like the basketball community here in Seattle is so rich, and I don't think that when people think of Seattle, they don't think necessarily basketball, but it's like the list of players that have come out of Seattle is crazy, you know? And I really feel like, I say this all the time, I'm like, Seattle breeds hoopers, and not just specifically just Seattle, but like, you know, the greater Northwest, you know, Pacific Northwest to be specific. But yeah, thank you. I mean, the platform that it's given me, the people that I've met, the friendships that I've, you know, gained because of being involved in Seattle sports. I mean, I'm still involved till this day. So, I mean, yeah, that's really all I can say is like, you know, is really just thank you. Thank you for, it's like I feel like sports is like, makes you family in a sense, like when you're playing, you know, on teams and meeting people and just the opportunities that I've had. I really think it's stemmed from Seattle basketball, you know, and the relationships that I have with people and things like that. It's like a lot of my friendships that I have till this day came from basketball in Seattle. So yeah.
Crazy with that one ball.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Shout out Sammy Dad who had that quote, but you know, it's amazing what that one ball can do for you.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And for the people who enjoyed the podcast and want to keep up with you, if they don't already know you somehow, where do they follow you?
Infamous Kayce. That's my handle on everything. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. No, I don't have Facebook. Instagram. Yeah.
MySpace.
Yeah. MySpace.
Shout out. We're bringing it back. For everything else for the podcast, it's jeremymillspodcast.com. Subscribe, rate, and review, Spotify, YouTube, everything else. Support me. I'm grassroots, Seattle basketball community bred. So thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks.